Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, suspended Bureau of Corrections Chief Gerald Bantag shows up for the first time on the Percy Lapid preliminary probe, but wants the Justice Department out of the Slay case. Justice spokesperson Mico Clavano joins us in the program. And later, motorcycle taxi service Angkas is among Steward Leadership awardees for going beyond the typical business model. Angkas CEO George Royeca tells us more about this recognition live. The accused mastermind in the killing of journalist Percy Lapid, suspended Bucor Chief Gerald Bantag, wants the office of the Ombudsman to take over the investigation. Nearly a month since complaints were filed, Bantag appeared before the DOJ prosecutors on Monday and filed a motion seeking to inhibit the Justice Department from conducting the probe. But Justice Secretary Boying Remulla says the request is not possible. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Justice spokesperson Mico Clavano. Mico, welcome to The Source. Welcome back to The Source. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Pinky. Good to see you again.
Okay, so the suspended Bucor Chief, Gerald Bantag, filed a motion for inhibition against the Justice Department. First of all, did this come as a surprise to the DOJ or even to the panel of prosecutors?
It's hard to speculate, no, but of course we anticipated everything that they already mentioned that they would exercise everything or every right within their within their right. We just wanted to anticipate any dilatory tactics or any remedies that they would exercise, and this is one of them. We did think that they were going to file a similar pleading to this. And at the end of the day, it's really up to the prosecutors, the panel of prosecutors, to decide on the matter.
Yeah, because the preliminary hearing was suspended after supposedly day 2. So Senior Assistant State Prosecutor Charlie Guhit said the hearings, as I mentioned a while ago, are suspended pending a resolution by the panel of prosecutors. But sir, the camp of Bantag reasons, one of the reasons for wanting the DOJ to inhibit from the case is because of what he calls the partiality of DOJ Secretary Boying Remulla. Knowing that the panel of prosecutors, however, is under the DOJ, how can this move forward?
Well, during the investigation, the agency that was active was the NBI. And it is also an attached agency of the DOJ. In fact, there are 10 attached agencies, all the way from the investigation, the prosecution, all the way up to the corrections. And so, as the Secretary of Justice and as the NBI is an attached agency of the department, we had to play a role also in the investigation, making our resources available to them, making sure that the investigation was led in the right way. And the fact that we were involved in the investigation does not mean that there is partiality already when it comes to the NTS, because there's a completely different dynamic when it comes to the NTS, the prosecution service. They have their own discretion when it comes to cases brought before them, and the Secretary is sure not to meddle in that discretion. So as for the investigation, yes, it was we played a role. We made our resources available to the NBI as well as the PNP to really come up with the case. But as soon as the case was filed, then the discretion lies solely with the panel of prosecutors.
Let's look at the other reasons of Gerald Bantag. He said that the case should be heard by an impartial tribunal. And I'll put in the next one. The third one, he was also saying that the DOJ has no jurisdiction and in fact should be heard by the Ombudsman. Let's go first to the second one. ASEC, yung po sinasabi niyang it must be heard by an impartial tribunal?
Well, I think it is purely speculative to say that it's already partial. They in the motion that they filed, they came up with hypothetical situations wherein they even cited a department circular. I think that was Department Circular 27, which spoke about the reform of the appeal process. But they seem to have nitpicked a certain provision or a certain sentence there that gives the secretary the prerogative to, in the interest of justice, to take on cases himself. But this prerogative will only be exercised in times where it is absolutely needed. But in this case, where you have a case filed by the panel of prosecutors, and there seems to be no irregularity at all, then the case should pursue in that venue. There's no reason for the Secretary of Justice to come in and take the case on by himself. No, and like I said before in a statement, the relationship between the Secretary and former Director General Bantag was a good one. It was a healthy one. It was only when the evidence started to point at that, of course, the Secretary had to take a step back, because it's that would be improper, to still be talking with him, to still engage with him, even if the evidence started to point at him.
Yeah, but
So
the thing is, Asek, they keep also emphasizing that there's bad blood between the two individuals, Secretary Boying Remulla and Gerald Bantag.
Yeah, the bad blood is a result of the evidence pointing at him. It's not, I actually wouldn't call it bad blood. It's just proper for the secretary to distance himself from somebody who's already considered a respondent in a case. So I think the motion is a bit of a stretch when it comes to these things. They allege certain facts that are not there. They are assuming things that are not present. So we believe that the motion is purely speculative. It's purely hypothetical, and I don't think a motion should have these allegations.
So I'll go to the third one I mentioned earlier, ASEC. The DOJ has no jurisdiction and in fact should be heard by the Office of the Ombudsman. And I read even possibly the Sandigan Bayan. Why? Because supposedly the suspended Bucor chief's salary grade is at 30 and the Ombudsman, I believe, takes on cases with a salary grade of 27 and higher. What is the response of the DOJ to this?
Well, you have to look at both the salary grade of the respondent as well as the nature of the case. So in cases where the crime or the violation is in relation to his office, that's when we can say that it is purely, or it will fall under the primary jurisdiction of the ombudsman. When the offense is not committed in relation to his office, then it falls within the general jurisdiction of the regular courts and the DOJ. However, when it comes to crimes or violations that are not related to the office, it does not mean that the ombudsman is completely out of the picture. It means that they have concurrent jurisdiction, the NPS as well as the ombudsman in crimes that fall within the jurisdiction of regular courts. So hindi siya related sa office niya. They have a concurrence of jurisdiction. And when you say that there's a concurrence, you think that there's a gray area. That is why the DOJ and the Ombudsman came up with a memorandum of agreement when it comes to these cases. And under that memorandum, if, say, for example, the crime is not in relation to the office, the Ombudsman will let the DOJ handle the case unless the Ombudsman sees that under its constitutional mandate, it finds reason to believe that it has to take over the case. But in this case, we don't believe that the Ombudsman has any reason to come in and take the case, because it's a murder case. It's something that is well within the expertise and the competency of the national prosecution. National Prosecution Service to handle and to resolve.
And the expertise of the ombudsman would be what?
Well, those that fall within the exclusive jurisdiction of the Sandigan Bayan are cases that have a lot to do with corruption, graft, direct bribery, indirect bribery, malversation, those violations of the code of ethics of government employees, and similar offenses.
Okay. We need to take a very short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our source today, Justice spokesperson Mico Clavano. Asek, so basically to summarize this is really a question of whether it will be heard by the panel of prosecutors, and if there is probable cause, it will be filed in a local court. On the other hand, there is also that option, if it happens, that this is going to be heard by the ombudsman, and if there's probable cause, tama ho ba, a case will file before the Sandigan Bayan?
For this case, for a murder case, we believe that this venue, the National Prosecution Service, and this panel of prosecutors is the most competent body to hear and resolve this case. There may be other cases that may be filed against the respondent in the ombudsman in relation to his office. So in that case, the more appropriate venue would be the ombudsman. But these are cases that he might have committed, or crimes that he might have committed in relation to his office. But a murder case is not in relation.
So, Asik, basically, you're saying that you obviously support that it's the panel of prosecutors that's supposed to hear this case. And from what I'm getting from you, if there are other cases that would be filed, such as anything that has to do with this office in terms of money, possible plunder, graft and corruption, etc., that can go to the office of the ombudsman. For example, sir, other stories that have cropped up in the past couple of weeks, such as yung hukay po doon sa NBP, or other stories such as animals around the NBP as well. Is the DOJ looking at also possibly filing a complaint against these other issues that have cropped up as of recent?
Yes, that is the more appropriate venue for those types of cases, like the digging, the animals, and any other violation that we see where he really used his office as a way or a method or a tool to perpetrate the crime. And so if the investigation on these other cases do merit the filing, it would be filed in the ombudsman. And that's where I guess the appropriate venue would be for those cases. But for this murder case, the most appropriate is this panel of prosecutors.
So, from my understanding, the panel of prosecutors gave all the respondents 7 days to comment on this motion for inhibition by the Bantag camp, which includes, I guess, the DOJ, includes the PNP, and also the family of Percy Lapid. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So they were all given 7 days to comment. The NBI and the PNP will be filing a joint comment just for continuity, because they both jointly filed as well the complaint. And then the family of Percy Lapid, headed by, of course, Mr. Roy Mabasa, will also submit their comment within the 7 days.
And everyone is in agreement that the panel of prosecutors should continue to hear the case.
Absolutely, Pinky. We believe that the panel of prosecutors is the best venue for the resolution of this case.
In the event, sir, that the panel of prosecutors rules that they should look and hear this case for probable cause, are you guys anticipating any other move or option by the camp of Bantag to get the DOJ out of the case?
Yes, but to say that on live TV might be exposing.
jeopardizing. In fact, he also did not want to say what was part of his counter affidavit so as not to jeopardize his defense as well. Let's move forward, sir, then. Other suspects, are there leads to finding other suspects or persons of interest? For example, sir, Zulueta, the Di Maculangan brothers, and that certain Orly?
Well, the law enforcement agencies are continuously looking for them. We have gotten some, I guess, tips on their whereabouts. The general feeling of the law enforcement agencies is that Mr. Zulueta is still out and about, and of course, we would want to get to him in order to complete the chain of communication that we believe is
That you presented.
The chain of communication.
Yeah, kasi parang...
Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, that you presented to the public, because really after Bantag, in that diagram that you showed was a Di Maculangan, and was a Zulueta. And from the Zulueta, dun po bumababa dun sa mga commander doon po sa Palawan, yung pong Iwahig, and then down to NBP. So some are actually saying that Zulueta right there could have been or could be the missing link. So are you confident mahahanap pa ho si Zulueta?
We're confident. We're confident that we can find him. And just to clarify, no, it's not really a missing link. It's the totality of evidence we're looking at here. So even without Mr. Zulueta in the picture, we believe that everything that has been said in the sworn affidavits, which will be reaffirmed in the preliminary investigation, will all still point to the respondent. So it's the totality of circumstances, the totality of facts that we will be using. So of course, it would really be helpful if we found Mr. Zulueta, but at the same time, it's still a case without him.
The Justice Secretary was asked before if there were reports kung buhay pa ho si Zulueta. Could you give us an update on this, sir?
Yes, of course, we were getting different information from different sources. Some were saying that he was still in hiding. Some were saying that he was already dead. But it's hard to really put weight into these the information that we got, just because we really have to see the corpus delicti, the body itself, to see is to believe, right, Ms. Pinky? So we want to verify the information fed to us before we make any pronouncements. But as I said, the general feeling, the information that we've gotten recently leads us to believe that Mr. Zulueta is still alive.
Justice spokesperson Mico Clavano, sir, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Pinky. Have a great day.
You too, and we'll be taking a very short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned.